What's up, folks? Welcome to TKD Garage. Today I want to talk about how to practice forms. So before I get into any demonstration of practicing the forms here in the TKD Garage, I want to talk about some ways you can practice forms or learn forms anywhere. So, for example, I'm learning Chung-Gun, so I may just stand around or be sitting at my desk or whatever and just kind of like run through the movements in my mind, so, and maybe even practice the hand techniques and the foot techniques without doing them full on and without doing the stances, just to kind of cement what order those things go in. So like here and then here and then here and then here. Let's see. Right? And then and so on. And I can stand around and do that. Matter of fact, it was funny, I was standing around at my part-time job that I do about once a month, and a guy who had practiced Taekwondo as a kid saw me. This is when I first started. He's like, "You doing Chunji?" I'm like, "Yeah, man." How'd you guess? Apparently it's pretty iconic and memorable. But anyways, some other things, like when I first started, I don't necessarily always have time for this now, but I would just walk out back when I was taking a break at work just to get the blood flowing and like bust out a form or two. And that's literally all the Taekwondo practice I got. And it did immeasurable good for me. Let's see, what are some other things you could do? Just study. This is just an example. Whatever your school tells you to use. My instructor told me about these books. These are by Grandmaster Jun Rhee, who's the father of American Taekwondo. These were probably made in the 1970s, but she told me they were the best books about forms. And so you can just go through here and it'll show you each move in order with the Korean names and even what the move might be used for. So when I'm first learning, like when I first learned joong-gun, I pulled this book out, went out in the driveway. It was before I had my mats. I think I was just practicing in the grass or whatever, and just go through here and do them. Couple this with watching a good video of a good instructor doing it, and that's how you can learn. On a side note, if you want to learn more about the characters behind the forms, the ITF style forms, the Chung-Gun forms like we use, this book by a gentleman named Stuart Anslow called From Creation Unification, The Complete Histories Behind the Chung-Gun ITF Patterns. I've read about close to half of it. I've basically got up to where I currently am in my studies. Actually, I think it looks like I'm on Hwarang. But I've definitely read up through joong-gun because that's what I'm learning. But this tells the stories behind all the, or rather not the stories because they're not fictional, the histories behind all the guys that our patterns in Taekwondo are named after. So anyway, as far as formal practice, when I set up at home and I pull the mats out and I really practice my forms, first I always have my training journal with me in case I need to reference anything out of there. I have pages in here with pictures of patterns. I'll usually bring the Grandmaster Jun Rhee books with me for whatever I'm learning. If I'm doing all of them or if I'm a little fuzzy on them, I might bring more than just this one. This one's got Chung-Gun and TKD. Let me move this out of the way. Alright folks, so I just recorded this whole video and I meant on the part where I actually performed the forms to zoom out to where I wasn't like right up in the face of the camera when I get further out on the mat, and I didn't, and I want to do better for you guys, so I'm doing it all again. Anyway, so kind of takes the wind out of my sails. Let me think. So when I pull the mats out and I do a more formal practice of my forms, what I like to do is practice each of them 5 times each, which makes for really good cardio. I make sure to have my Taekwondo training journal with me because that has my study sheets with all the techniques and the Korean names, and I'll also bring the Grandmaster Jun Rhee book with me as well for reference. That way, if I have to look something up, it's there. At this point, I know this one, so I probably won't have to reference the book, but it's there if I need it. So anyway, the first time I practice the form, I'll do it at normal speed and just see how it goes, all right? So this is going to be Chung-Gun. When I first start, I'll give the definition. The ITF mandated definition may be different, but ours goes like, Chung-Gun, named after On Chung-Gun, the patriot who assassinated the first Japanese overlord of Korea. The 32 movements represent his age when he was martyred in prison. 32 movements, 3 key hops, starting position Chombisagi B. So then I get in Chombisagi B, and I just go after it. Kick! Come on, Marcus. So, after the first time, while I'm doing it, I make note of anything I did wrong. My elbow strikes could have been higher. My side kicks, I don't know why. Tonight, I'm wanting to fall when I do them, and they're turning out like roundhouse kicks. Probably a little bit subconscious from the previous video I made about trying to fix my ugly side kicks. I chambered the guarding block with knife hands. That's not right. And I ended up just a little off from where I started, right? All forms should start in the same place. And we'll get to some stuff actually right now to see why that is. So I'll go a second time. And this time I'll make sure, and I've got my mat sectioned off to where I kind of have a frame of reference. I'm in the blue, and I'm starting in the middle of the second from the back blue tiles. So my goal is to land here or pretty close, right? So anyway, Chombisagi B. And then this time, I'm going to pay real attention to my stances and really try to fix those things that I did wrong last time. Kick! Look down and measure out that back stance. All right. Make sure my hands are in the right places. And don't make weird noises when I kick. That's wrong. Just one step away. Not bad. Okay, so usually on my third attempt, what I will do, and again, this is where having the books comes in handy. As part of our test, we're required to say the names of the movements in Korean as we perform the form. So I will go through it, making sure I know the Korean names. So again, starting in the same place. Yak Sudo. Chagi. Taekwondo Oyo Marki. Yak Sudo. Chagi. Taekwondo Oyo Marki. Sudo Marki. Sangdam Palkum Chitarigi. Sudo Marki. Sangdam Palkum Chitarigi. Sangdan Do Seibo Churigi. Chungdan Do Tuchibu Churigi. Kyep. Sengdan Kyocha Marki, Sengdan Yikuan, Chumapagi, and Sengdan Chirugi, Sengdan Yikuan, Chumapagi, Sengdan Chirugi, Sengdan Do Palmak Marki, Chung-Gun Yup Chirugi, Yup Chagi, Sengdan Do Palmak Marki, Chung-Gun Yup Chirugi, Yup Chagi, Chung-Gun Palmak Marki, Nulo Marki, Chung-Gun Palmak Marki, Nulo Marki, Baro Dai Bisagi, Mundungi Marki, Mundungi Marki, Kya! Alright. Now, for time number 4, I'll go through it again and really pay attention to my stances. And really dope them out. So, I got a back stance there. I measure it using my squares, like what it's supposed to look like. All right. Yep. Yep, that looks good. All right. Okay. Yep. All right. I noticed the last time I tried to make this video, I was shorting this one. Gotta make sure not to move my back foot. I did it again. Move my back foot. That might be part of my problem. All right. Again. Alright, and that gets me pretty close. Then, for the 5th and final time, I will just bust it out as quickly as I possibly can. For another reason, then, it's a good workout. So, now, one final thing, and this is something I picked up in class from my instructor a couple of weeks ago. She had us all do joong-gun without any hand, foot, any techniques, just stances basically. I found that extremely helpful to just dope out the stances. 1, to make sure you know them, and 2, to really like work on positioning those things correctly. So I think I might go for a 6th time with no techniques, right? So I'm going to go in a back stance, I'll do the kicks. Cat stance. Let's see. Back stance. Cat stance. Back stance. Front stance. Back stance. Front stance. Front stance. Front stance with a stomp. Alright. Front stance. Back stance. Front stance. Back stance. Front stance. Front stance. Okay. Back stance. Front stance. Back stance. Back stance. Front stance. And this form is weird because it has a lot of like jumping between back and front and back stances. Front stance. I forgot what the English name of this one, Bar Davisagi. Anyways, this stance. Then fixed stance. Right. Fixed stance. And then Jumbisagi B. Alright. So some additional tips. Study. If you're given, say you make your next rank, and you're given your study sheet for the next rank, whatever's on it, go ahead and learn it. What I like to do, say purple belt study sheet said that I have to learn Chung-Gun. There's some masters in our organization that have videos on YouTube. So I'll go out there and watch them do it, and I'll study the Jun-Ri book. And between the two of them, I'll try to teach myself the form so that that takes the burden off my instructor. So when I show up to class, all she has to do is show me what I'm doing wrong, fix my stances, my hand positions, that sort of thing. Sometimes I'll have to fight the urge. If she says only learn this part of the form, I have to fight the urge to go learn the whole thing because there's a reason behind that. She doesn't want me to get confused. Additionally, I have in my training journal several pages dedicated to marking off how many times I practice each hyung or form. Because Grandmaster Jun-Ri said you should practice them 300 times before you learn the next one. Now, I haven't done that, but I've kind of set 300 as sort of an intermediate goal to try to practice all my forms. So I'm just ticking them off as I do them. And I'm up to, I think the highest I've got is like 170, 180 on one of them, and I can't think of which one it is right now. I guess I can reference the book, but you guys don't care. Once again, you're going to get out of this what you put into it, and if your instructor gives you something to study or something to learn, train hard and learn it. That's all. See ya.